Welcome back yet again. This next chapter is on inventory management. We'll be taking a look at types of inventory, the independent demand inventories, EOQ, more alphabet soup, inventory cost, determining reorder levels, and more on safety stock. Inventory. Inventory are tangible items awaiting sale or use. Tangible again means touchable. So our inventory are touchable items. We a lot of times do an SKU or stock keeping unit, which is a particular item of inventory. It's a particular item that we sell. Raw materials are actually inventory brought in from outside the system. Raw materials might be something that we would actually see as a raw material, eggs, but it could actually be a finished product of somebody else. Flour, if we're a bakery, flour might be one of our raw materials, but it is the end product for somebody else. Actually, flour comes from wheat. You need to grind it and mill it into a flour. Work in process or work in progress, also depending on the author of the text, is inventory resulting from the transformation of raw materials, but not yet ready for sale to customers. So it says stuff that we've started, it's taking the raw materials, starting to create and put them into our finished product, but it's somewhere in the middle of our process. And then finished goods are inventory awaiting sale for our customers. It's what we've already completed making. Cycle stock is a portion of inventory available, or it's planned to be available, for the normal demand during a given period. It excludes excess stock and safety stock, also called working stock or lot size stock. What this is stuff coming in. With cycle stock, we've looked at FIFO, first in, first out. LIFO, last in, first out. What type of cycle is it? But it's stock that is constantly replenished. Safety stock. We're going to talk a lot about safety stock today. The quantity of inventory that is used to satisfy demand that exceeds the expected demand during lead time. This is your extra stuff. What happens if you are buying eggs and you know that you plan on using 100 eggs during this day for your baking in your bakery? What happens if one of those eggs breaks? You dropped an egg. Safety stock is making sure you have some extra eggs available in case something like that happens. Pipeline stock is inventory currently in transit between locations. It can be raw materials in the pipeline coming to you. It can be finished goods out. It can be something going from factory A to factory B that is actually work in process. We're going to look at independent demand inventories. This is companies that have completed products in stock ready to supply to their customers. It's not dependent upon demand at the time of order. This is stuff that can be made to sit on a shelf. This is stuff that you don't have to have at the last minute, that you don't have to make once a person orders. It's paper, toilet paper, it's paper towels, it's reams of papers, pens, pencils, notebooks. It's not dependent upon the demand of the customer that it's created at that time, but it's done in advance. When we take a look at this, we're going to take a look at our economic order quantity, or EOQ. It's a company determines a set amount or a fixed quantity that it will order every time it replenishes stock. And we're going to get to this a little bit more in just a minute, but there's some other issues some other vocabulary we want to talk with this, and one is reorder level or reorder point. This is the level of inventory that is established to know when it's time to order more. If we are ordering the same amount each and every single time, we know when it gets to some point we know that we need to have it. We need to order more because of lead time, how long it takes for us to get the order in. From the time we place the order to the time we receive an order, that's our lead time. And we need to know how long that takes so that we know we can order enough to have it when we need it. Some things that are relevant to our inventory cost, these increase the cost. Cost of invested funds. This is an opportunity cost. It's another term for an opportunity cost. You are able to spend money once. You can't spend your money on one thing and then go, oh no, I really want to spend it on this instead. Or I'm going to spend it on this instead. You've already bought something. So you've invested your funds in raw materials and machinery and people. You can't, that's opportunity cost. You can't use that money for a different opportunity, for a different investment. So it's the cost of the invested funds. The cost of storage space. We're looking at how much storage space is needed, what type of storage space. So if you're looking at storing paper clips, 1,000 paper clips can be on a shelf in a drawer. It doesn't take that much room. 1,000 tanks are going to take a lot more room. So you have to take a look at that idea on what type of storage space. Does it need certain humidity levels controlled, temperature controlled? How fragile is it? We're looking at those ideas. And that also costs in storage space. If it costs more to store something in a freezer than it does to store it on a shelf, where it doesn't have to be climate controlled. Taxes and insurance. You pay taxes on raw material. You pay taxes on work in process. You pay taxes on finished goods. You also should have insurance to cover each and every single one of those in case something happens, if there's a fire at the plant, if there is something that is wrong, if flooding takes place, a building collapses, a roof collapses under snow. You want to make sure that this stuff is insured and that you have the good insurance for it. I also talk to my students right now, and this is me being parental, but out of personal knowledge. Do you have renter's insurance if you're renting? You want to make sure your stuff is, if somebody breaks in, if there's a fire at your rental place, you want to make sure that your stuff is covered, because it's not covered underneath the actual owner of the building. If you're renting, if you're a homeowner, you probably do have insurance. If you don't, you should. Quality cost. What's the cost of quality? How much are you paying to get a better quality product? Crap in, crap out, good quality in, hopefully good quality out. You want to have quality raw materials to be able to produce a quality product. This is very important. So we're looking at these quality costs, the cost of buying something that's a little bit higher quality than buying crap. Coordination cost, coordinating from getting raw materials from point A to point B, from getting the work in process from point A to point B to get finished goods out to your customers. This is all coordination. When do people work on different things? If it's something that has a 20-step process, and there's 20 different workstations that this has to go to, how are you going to coordinate who comes in when, who works on what, how people are working on things? There's a cost involved in that. There's a cost of having employees waiting around to work on something if something is taking more time elsewhere. So we're looking at those things. Cost of poor responsiveness. Cost of poor responsiveness deals with what happens if your customers want to change. When I first started here at ETSU was 1990. The in colors were turquoise, fuchsia, neon green, and a neon orange. All together. Those aren't the in colors anymore for people to wear. Although some of it's coming back, just not all together. But looking at this, that was high fashion. Those were the color combinations people wanted. They don't want that now. How are you changing what your people want. Looking at computers, do they have a disk drive? I started off with a 5.25-inch disk, saving information. Actually, I started off saving information reel to reel. I'm old. But we started reel to reel. We then went to cassette tape. We then went to 5.25 inch. Then we went to 3.5, what was called a hard disk. Floppy 5.25 hard disk. 3.5 inch. We then went to using CDs to store material and to be able to upload materials, and flash drives, and now external hard drives, and saving to the cloud. And there's so many ways things have changed. What's available on the computer? I do not have a computer that has a 5.25 or a 3.5 inch floppy disk to be able to use that. So it's making computers, they changed based on what people wanted. So we're looking at that. I was just given some videos to review that are on VHS, and they went and handed them to me. I'm like, I don't have a VHS player. I have a DVD player and a Blu-ray player. How am I going to view these videos to see if they'll work in a class for me to use? So I have to find another way to do this. But these are all things that we have to take a look at changes that your customer wants. Because remember, we've stated before, I'll state it again, your needs, your wants mean nothing. It's your customer's needs and wants. Obsolescence cost. This here goes right in there with the cost of poor responsiveness. Things become obsolete. Things go bad. What happens if you order strawberries? Do you want to order strawberries that you're going to use a whole year? They don't last that long in the fridge. They're going to rot. They're going to get moldy. We don't want that. My brother-in-law bought everything on what was called Beta that came out at the same time VHS tapes did. He still has his Beta, does not have tapes. He does not have a Beta recorder, but I don't know what he's doing with them. That's obsolete. It's not a format that's used anymore. Just like that 5.25 inch or 3.5 inch discs are not used anymore for us to store information on and get information on. They've become obsolete. Things that decrease our cost, our order cost. How much does it cost to order? Does it cost less to order more? I do a lot of buying, my sister especially. We get together and we order things from Current Magazine. And there's a cost if you order 1, if you order 5, if you order 10. It goes down per item the more you order. So are we taking a look at that? Is there a discount for ordering more? Setup costs. Believe it or not, your setup cost should not be considered fixed because you want to lower your setup cost. You want to decrease your setup cost as much as possible and have a reduction there so that you have a better cost per item. So if we reduce the cost of what it costs to set up, then putting it off per item, it reduces that cost. A reduction in setup cost is often achieved through just-in-time, using just-in-time, and we'll talk more about just-in-time in later chapters. We take a look at items cost. How much does it cost per item? What's the cost of the raw materials going in there? What's the cost of the labor going in there? What's the cost of the setup costs? All of this is put in there to help us produce each and every single item. Raw materials coming in, the cost per item, finished goods going out, cost per items. Cost of missed sales. Cost of missed sales is a big one because if you miss that sale, and if you've taken business logistics, you might have heard this before. You have the cost of the item from the sale that you missed. You have the cost of companion sales, which means if somebody's coming in to buy something in milk and you don't have that milk, are they still going to buy the bread and the eggs? You've missed those sales. They're going to take it elsewhere to where they can get the milk that they want and get the bread and the eggs at that store instead. Future sales. You're going to miss future sales. So the person who can't get what they want this time, are they going to come back to you again to get what they want? You don't have what they want this time. They might second think it and just go somewhere else. Last type is cost of possible sales from other people. People talk. So not only are you missing that sale, companion sales, future sales from that one person, they're going to tell their friend and another friend and a few other people word of mouth saying, oh, don't go there. They never have that type of milk. So we're looking at this and that change. Those cost of missed sales are huge. And if you don't want that cost of a missed sale, then you have to make sure that you have the order when it's needed. So we go into a basic EOQ model. Looking at our EOQ, looking at our economic order quantity. What is this? We're going to have assumptions. The first assumption is that the usage rate is uniform and known. That means it's going to be the same. They're going to use it constantly the same way, and it will be, here's our rate, it's going to go down, straight line, not a problem, and we know it. Item cost does not vary with order size. Now, wait a minute, we just talked about having the order cost vary and wanting to get the least amount order costs, ordering more if we need to get a lower price. In the EOQ model, we're assuming that it does not change. It's an assumption here, not always reality, just an assumption. All of the order is delivered at the same time. It's not a staggered order process. You order, you get it in, period. Lead time is known well enough so that an order can be timed to arrive when the inventory is exhausted. This is called a perfect JIT. In a perfect JIT, as I am pulling that last item off the shelf, the next order comes in that we can restock. Cost to replace and receive an order is the same regardless of the amount ordered. It's a set amount. It's the same. We don't have to worry about it. Cost of holding inventory is a linear function of the number of items held. The more items held, the higher it's going to go off. It's a straight line. Each item held is going to cost the same amount. It's there's no squares in there or anything else. It's not a curved line. It's a straight line. So we have our total relevant inventory costs. The objective is to minimize the total annual cost of inventory factors for the item under consideration. These factors we want to put down as much as possible. We want them to be as low as possible. We want to minimize our holding costs, our reorder levels. In order to do that, our reorder levels will equal the annual demand times the lead time, or our annual demand, D sub A, capital D sub A, times our lead time, LT, equals our reorder level, or our reorder point, ROP, whichever one you want to use. Therefore, to do this problem and figure out our economic order quantity, the quantity will equal 2 times our annual demand times stocking cost. The S here is a stocking cost divided by a holding cost and the square root taken. While in this class you will not be computing an EOQ, you do need to know that formula and understand that D here is annual demand, S is a stocking cost, and H is a holding cost. LT, of course, we said was lead time. The time from when we place the order to when we receive it is our lead time. So looking at those, we can now take a look at what the EOQ actually is. As we said, we are using things on a known usage, the demand rate. So if we take a look, we've got the straight line. We know here we're going to receive our order, get it in. We're using it here in a fashion that we know, we understand, being done at the uniform rate. The minute we hit 0, that next order is right there for us to restock. We're going to use it again at that uniform rate. We hit 0, we're going to restock. We're going to use it again at that uniform rate. We understand that. We know how much our lead time is. We know how long it will take to get it in. So if this is our time here on the bottom, we know from where we hit 0, We want to count backwards. Where do we place the order? We want it on this date, therefore we have to order it on this date. That gives us our lead time. If we order it on this date, we can then go up our graph to find out what that point is. How many will we have? So that becomes our time where we need to do our reorder point. Realize that this is a conceptual model. It does not always hold true. These are assumptions. Matter of fact, they rarely hold true. It's written right there for you. It's generalization for us to understand how we can figure out how much we need to order. Okay? So it's a conceptual model. We need to know our lead time. We need to know the rate we're going to be using things so that we know when we place an order, how long it will take to receive it, that we can work backwards. If I need it on this date, here's the date that I can order it. Here's the date I need it, so I need to place my order here when I have this amount left. I understand that. That's what EOQ is all about. So if we take a look at a traditional lot size model with this, we're actually looking at the effect of setup reduction and determining economic production lot size. We produce at this rate, etc. What is the production lot size that we should do? How can we get an economic production lot size, EPL? It really looks at the importance of setup reduction. And we'll talk about more of this a little bit more later. But it looks at bottlenecks. A bottleneck is where a resource whose capacity is less than or equal to the demand placed on it. I'm drawing, use your imagination. We have the bottleneck right here. So as things are flowing through, this right here really limits what we're able to do. Whether you're pouring out or pouring stuff in, this bottleneck limits what we're able to do. So we've got this limitation, and what we want to do is either increase our number of setups or find a way to break these. And we'll talk about this more later. But if we have the 3 different workstations, for this to happen, this takes 3 minutes, this takes 6 minutes, then I'm going to be able to do twice of these before one of these is done. So do I need to set up a separate setup so that I can go down to here, then up to here, down, and trade it both off? Or is it something that can I break this bottleneck in a different way? And again, we're going to be talking breaking bottlenecks in a later chapter. We want to determine the reorder level or reorder point. Reorder level, RL, and ROP are the reorder point, are identical. They mean the exact same thing. It just depends on the chapter or the author of the chapter or the author of the book. I learned reorder level. I think this book uses reorder point. I'm at the point now where I can pretty much go back and forth with them. This is established so that the inventory level would reach 0 just as the new material began to arrive. Again, we're looking at a straight just-in-time factory with this and looking at what's best within our economic order quantity. Reorder level refers to the number of units on hand and on order. And if we take a look at this, demand, small d, is looking for a time period, not annual demand, which is the capital D sub A, but small d reflects a time period, also known as a time bucket. We'll be talking about them in time buckets later. LT again is the number of time periods then in the lead time. So are we talking hours? We talking minutes? We talking days? Are we talking weeks? They need to be listed in that same time period. When we truthfully take a look at reorder levels, we want to do not just demand times lead time to figure it out, but we probably want to add in safety stock. SS is safety stock. So we're looking at safety stock in this. And when we start talking about safety stock, I want to talk to you and ask you a little bit about this. This is what I call the toilet paper lecture. Safety stock or buffer stock is stock that you want to keep extra on hand for any number of reasons. So I'm going to assume that you all know what toilet paper is, whether you're the one who purchases it or not. How much toilet paper do you keep on hand? If you look at a perfect just-in-time, your safety stock on toilet paper is 0. There is no safety stock. In a perfect just-in-time setting, as you are pulling that last sheet of toilet paper off, somebody's bringing in more toilet paper. In reality, that's not how it works. Most people carry a safety stock of toilet paper. When I lived in a small apartment, my safety stock was 4 rolls. It was a package of toilet paper. Why? Because A, I lived by myself. B, I had very little storage area. And I figured once I opened up that new package, it was my clue to put it on the list and to go grocery shopping and get another package of toilet paper. When I moved into a larger house, I had friends come live with me. There was actually, in my condo, there were 6 of us living there at one point. I bought it by a minimum 12-pack and usually a 24-pack of toilet paper. And when I opened up the 24-pack, it was my notification to go buy more toilet paper. When it's flu season, I make sure I have extra toilet paper on hand. When I know I have extra company coming, I have extra toilet paper because you're going to go through more. It's a normal bodily function. So if you think, how much toilet paper do you keep on hand? That's your safety stock. So what is it that we're going to take a look at that affects our safety stock? Well, how much storage area we have. Is it going to go bad? Luckily, toilet paper doesn't go bad unless it hits water. So I don't store it in a place where flooding can occur. It's on a shelf. So I look at these things, so it's okay to stock. I can use FIFO, first in, first out. I can use LIFO, life in, first out. With the toilet paper, it really doesn't matter. So I'm looking at that. But other factors that look at this is not just your personal things, but cost of loss due to stock out is high. Same thing with milk, eggs, and bread. When do you find that there's no milk, eggs, and bread? When there's a snowstorm coming, when there's, my friends right now, this is beginning of October that I am actually recording this, and there is a hurricane warnings in Florida. One of my friend's daughters works at a grocery store, and they could not keep milk, bread, and eggs on the shelf. One of my other friends jokes that it must be French toast. Every time there's a storm, people make French toast. So we're looking at this and say people are going because they want to make sure that they have these items in their home. So if loss due to stock out, you're not going to make a sale. You're going to have that missed sale, missed companion sales, other sales, future sales, and of course word of mouth sales. When you're afraid of those missed sales due to stock out is high, you want to have more safety stock. You want to have extra available. When the cost of carrying safety stock is low, how much does it cost to carry extra toilet paper? It's, a couple bucks for a 12-pack, $1 something for a 4-pack roll of toilet paper. So the cost was very low. So I'm able to afford that. So when the cost of carrying safety stock is low, you want to carry more safety stock. You're able to carry more safety stock. When variability or uncertainty of demand is high due to forecast inaccuracy. Remember back on the exam 1, I think it's, for some reason I'm saying chapter 4, but don't quote me on that. We talk forecasting. And we talked about accuracy. We did MAD, MSE, MFE, MAPE, MAPE. We looked at those, MADE, and to see how well we actually forecasted. How inaccurate did we do, or was it pretty close to? Were they good forecasting? And again, you don't expect your forecasting to be perfect, but how close were you? So if the forecasting is very inaccurate due to uncertainty or variability, then you might want to carry more safety stock. You might want to have that on hand so you don't miss sales later on. The number of annual exposures to the risk of stock out is great because of numerous orders in small amount. That's the lovely little hurricane season. You have people going in and buying an extra loaf of bread, an extra gallon of milk, or buying milk before they normally would, because they're afraid they won't be able to get out later. These type of things you take a look at, you want to make sure those little tiny exposures, if you have one or two people buying one loaf of bread or two loaves of bread instead of one loaf of bread, that adds up versus someone coming in and buying 20 loaves of bread. That's going to quickly deplete your stock. But if they're buying, one person's buying 2 loaves here, another person who usually doesn't buy bread is buying bread, then that can quickly deplete your stock also because of those little tiny sales. So you have to be careful and watch out for those when you determine what your level of safety stock should be. So how do we actually determine it? One of them is a rule of thumb. Rule of thumb is a guesstimation. It's somebody using their knowledge, saying, I think it should be around. How do I know how many rolls of toilet paper I should keep at my house? Well, I know how often I go grocery shopping. I know approximately how much toilet paper I use, so I know I should have X amount. I don't want to run out of toilet paper, so I'm going to make sure that I have those 4 extra rolls. And when I'm down to those 4 rolls, I'm going to go buy. I'm taking a look at this. I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm making sure I know and understand my consumption, when I have company in the house, what their consumption should be. Service level versus holding costs. Taking a look at this, how much is the holding cost? If your holding costs are high, you might not want to carry as much safety stock. If your holding costs are low, you might want to increase that service level because that's what we're looking at. Are we worried about a stock out and we're missing sales because of it? Because we don't have the raw material we need, we don't have the finished product we need, whatever it is. We're not able to produce because we don't have the raw materials. We're not able to transport to the customers because we don't have the finished goods. There's an explicit trade-off or a stock out cost. We can take a look at marginal analyses. We can take a look at the margins on this. We can take a look at the mean absolute deviations. What are the possibilities of this? Using known distributions, looking at this. And if you take a look at our chart now, we still have our same EOQ model. We're now, though, using our same lead times, etc. But what we have here now is a safety stock. We're not going down to 0 anymore. We're having a little bit just in case we have that storm and our raw materials aren't able to be delivered or we're not able to get the finished goods out to the store. We have that safety stock, either in finished goods or raw materials. Both are considered safety stock, that we're able to be prepared just in case. Also, safety stock is good, again, for that poor quality. What happens if you are making bedding and you take a look at the fabric and there's a run in the fabric, there's the weave is not good, then there's that piece you can't use. So how's the measurement on either side? Do you have to not use a bigger piece, or is it a small piece that you can't use? So we're taking a look at safety stock and help us also with poor quality of stuff also. We can take a look at computer systems to use to figure out how much safety stock we should have, when we should place orders. It will give us an actual notification, place an order now. There are softwares that does this. There's computerized inventory systems that do this. So while we look at it here, bit by bit, and our next chapter is actually going to be looking at taking and placing orders, we're doing it on small scale. When you have a large company that is placing orders for raw material for thousands of products that they produce, then it's going to be a much greater scale. And they probably want a computerized system to help them. Here we're going to take a look at it small scale so that we can understand the theory and the concepts behind it. And we can actually say, okay, this is what we need to do and why we need to do it. But again, there is software and computerized programs that will help you do this. You don't have to do all of this by hand. But for this class, you will be, so that you understand the how and why. This ends up this chapter. The next chapter is going to start with dependent demand and materials requirement planning. And so I'll see you next time.